Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be painting an Aliens Xenomorph from start to finish. But first of all I want to say a huge thank you to the Army Painter for sending me out the air paints to use in this tutorial, and also the Airbrush company who I've been working with for over 10 years, and they send me my water airbrushes that you'll see me using in this tutorial. Okay guys, as always this is going to be a long video, but it's going to be very simple and straightforward to follow. There's no complicated techniques, there's no advanced techniques. It's just going to be very simple to follow and achieve exactly the results that you see here today. Okay guys, so as I mentioned before, it is going to be a long video, so go get comfortable, grab yourselves a nice hot drink, or maybe my personal favourite, an ice cold beer, and we'll get started with the tutorial. We're going to start off by priming the miniature using the Army Painter's matte black perfect coverage air primer. This is a really thin primer and it sprays out of my Iwata Eclipse CS airbrush absolutely effortlessly, no thinnings required. You'll see that I start building up the primer layer really thin. I don't want to blast the paint too heavily on the miniature. If we do, we're going to leave possibly drip marks or obscure some of that beautiful detail on the miniature. It's important to note that I've had this Iwata Eclipse airbrush for quite some time, and it may look a little mucky on the outside, but I can assure you that it's perfectly clean on the inside. The outside's not that important to clean, but the inside is very crucial to clean. As you can see, I've pretty much painted the whole of the miniature now with the black primer, and it's starting to look nice and even and ready for subsequent layers of paint to be applied over the primer. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to be painting this miniature in a very easy and hopefully great way. I want to say a huge thank you also to Gray from Woofu Workshop. He's a 3D printing expert and he has his own shop on Etsy, and I think he has one on eBay as well if I can remember rightly. But I'll leave a link in the description box and also in the comments field down below to the Airbrush company, to the Army Painters Air Paints, and also to Woofu Workshop, who 3D printed this absolutely awesome Aliens Xenomorph for me. Okay, as you can see, I'm painting that silver colour really effortlessly out of the airbrush, and I'm painting the whole miniature. The idea in painting this miniature was to paint it as quickly and effortlessly as possible and get a great result in the end as well. But the most important thing that I wanted to achieve was a very simple and straightforward tutorial to follow, and we're going to find that as we go along with this tutorial that it's going to be super easy to follow. Okay, now we're going to be applying an all over wash, if you like, with the Army Painter Speed Paint Bony Matter. This is one of my favourite speed paint colours and it works really well. It's going to give a dirty, dingy, grimy look to all the metallics on the miniature. It's going to start laying down that brown, dingy colour also on the Xenomorph. And you'll see that it's going to work really well. Now we're going to do a bit of dry brushing using the Army Painter's Shining Silver. This is an air paint, so make sure that you really remove most of the paint as it's quite thin and you don't want to be left with any of that paint too wet on the brush, as it'll ruin the effect. Here you'll see that I'm very lightly brushing over all the areas that are due to be metallic, and it's just going to highlight them all and make them pop. Now I'm going to be switching over to my Iwata HP CH Highline airbrush. The reason I'm switching over is because I've got more control over this airbrush than I have with the Eclipse. I can get finer lines and I can be more careful with the airbrush. It also has what's known as a MAC valve at the very front of the airbrush, which stands for micro air control. That enables me to control how much pressure of the air is being sprayed out of the airbrush at any one time. This enables me to get super accurate lines onto the miniature. So what you'll see me doing here is avoiding all the areas that I've painted in metallics and painting all of the areas in that colour that I showed a moment ago. More depth is going to be added to the miniature now using the Army Painter's new Fanatics Strong Tone paint. I also add a bit of airbrush medium to thin it down a little because I don't want the effect too strong. Here I'm just showing you in a little medicine cup that I fondly use to thin my paints down, and we're just going to spray it all over the miniature. Now we're going to use Charred Bone to dry brush all of the skulls that we see on the miniature. Because they're actually painted brown beforehand, painting the Charred Bone straight over the top of them gives a really great effect. You keep all of the brown in the recesses, and the Charred Bone is going to be just on the very top surfaces of those skulls. Now we're going to be using the Army Painter's Air Matte Black, and the reason I'm using this is to paint the edge or the lip of the base, if you like, and we're also adding a little black to some of the brown areas of the base and also to some of the muddy elements of the tower, I think you could call it, that the Xenomorph's sitting on. But just adding little bits here and there. Now we're coming back in with bony matter yet again, and I'm going to be adding this on different areas of the base just to give more tone and texture to that muddy areas. And we're also going to be painting all of the skulls again with the bony matter. And after we place that charred bone down, the skulls are going to look really, really authentic. We're going to finish up the Xenomorph, painting the top surface of the head. I don't know what area we'd call it, but I'm going to just call it the top of his head for now. And we're going to apply the Army Painter's gloss varnish. This is going to make it look different from the other areas of the Xenomorph and give it a really cool finish that you'll see towards the end of the video once the miniature's complete and we see it turning on the turntable. Okay guys, so this is the completed Xenomorph, and like I said at the start of the video and probably a few times in the video, it was super simple to paint. Took me less than an hour to paint from start to finish. We used a small amount of paints for this miniature, but as I'm sure you can agree, the end result does look quite nice. Lastly, I want to say a huge thank you to the Army Painter for sending me out all the airbrush paints. I want to say a huge thank you to the Airbrush company, as always, for supplying me with my airbrushes and all my auxiliary airbrush products, and also to Wufu Workshop, who printed this absolutely beautiful alien Xenomorph for me. This Xenomorph is going to be given away for free to a great guy called Ben, who's not been well at the moment and he's recovering, and he's a super Aliens fan, and it couldn't have gone to a better home, I think. Okay guys, so thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.